Hey, good morning, guys. It's Coach Jessica. I apologize. My voice is a little rough. I have a sore throat and a stuffy nose and just kind of not feeling really good today. But I still wanted to come in here and just talk to y'all a little bit about a couple things that are on my mind from what I've been reading that you're posting. And hopefully some of this will help you through what you're going through. The number one thing that's on my heart this morning is to tell you a mantra that I hold near and dear in my heart. In fact, I have it tattooed on my shoulder. And that mantra is, fear is a liar. I've had it there for several years. I actually had a bout of skin cancer, and I had a large scar on my back where I had 17 stitches. A large amount of skin was removed, and I went through a period of time where every time I would see like a freckle or a dot or anything on my skin, I would wonder, like, is this the thing that's going to kill me? Because if we hadn't caught that in my back, eventually melanoma is deadly. And so I went through a period of time where I just lived in fear all the time that something that was going to pop up in my body was going to kill me. And I finally overcame that, and I came to a place where I understood that I didn't have to be afraid. But when I'm reading a lot of your posts about your ability to stay sober, or your ability to make it through the day, or to make it through thoughts that are condemning, or thoughts that are trying to turn you towards your addiction, that's exactly what I'm getting, is fear. That's what I'm reading, that's what I'm seeing. And I want to tell you that fear is something that is meant to freeze us in our tracks. It's meant to keep us in our sickness, and it's meant to steal your life. It's meant to steal your purpose. And so fear, I see it as an enemy thought. We do not have to be afraid of our thoughts. And I think that's really what it is. We're afraid of Ed. We're afraid of our own ability to follow through on the things that we know we're supposed to do. There's just a lot of fear. So I want you to adopt this mantra that I have too. Fear is a liar. Fear is an enemy technique that's meant to keep you from thriving and living your life. So how do we deal with fear? First of all, you admit it. You say, you know what, I'm feeling afraid that I can't do such and such. Like, I'm afraid I can't even make it through one meal. If you acknowledge that fear, then you can say, what is the truth? Because truth overcomes fear. So the truth is, there is no thought that we have that must become an action. Ed's ability in our life begins and ends with being able to plant thoughts in our heads. And I think a lot of times people get so stuck in this idea that Ed is super powerful, and while thoughts might feel powerful, they can't compel you to act on them. They can't compel you to move. So a big part of freedom, a big part of really getting well, is saying, if I have a damaging, a compulsive, a thought that overwhelms me, if I take hold of that thought, I have the power to shut it down. I think one of the problems is that we let a thought fester in our mind. We let it repeat over and over and over until we're worn out and we feel like we have to give in to it. And the alternative to that is saying, okay, I'm having this thought. I'm going to come to the group. I'm going to share what the thought is. And if I capture that thought and I say, what is it? I'm looking at the thought. I can overcome that by stating truth. So a thought might be like, well, just take tonight off and then start again tomorrow. And you have to say, I don't have to do that. I already took last night off. I feel like garbage today, so I'm not going to repeat that. You speaking out loud you stepping up and owning that thought and saying, you know what, this is not my thought. This is an enemy thought. This is an Ed thought. It's meant to keep me in sickness. You doing that actually shuts the thought down and makes it have no power over you. It's when we cling to these thoughts, we keep them to ourselves, we let it keep festering and repeating in our mind, that we feel helpless over them. But the truth is, you have all the power. A thought never has to become an action. We had sort of a call about this, like, after, if you haven't gone back and watched the Zooms that we did before, or the short videos that I've done, under media, go to videos and watch those, or you can scroll back through and see all our past Zooms, the 4 from the last month. We talked a lot about how first you have a thought, and then it turns into an idea, and then it turns into a plan, and then it turns into an action. If you catch that thought at the inception, when it is just a thought, before it becomes a plan, before it really turns into something that's, controlling you, you are likely to overcome that. And one way to do that is to come here in the group and say, you know what, Ed's telling me this. And so being really honest and open and shining a light on that thought will help. But speaking up with the truth is even more important, because once you declare, I don't have to act on this thought, the thought loses a lot of its power over you. I want to expand on that some on Saturday when we get together, because I do think, again, if you are living in fear, you are running from Ed. What I want to see everybody do is run towards your future, run towards a life where you are happy and free. If you have your eyes focused on that, like I'm running towards freedom, you're not running from Ed, but as you're running towards freedom, you leave him in the dust. And so it's whether you're focusing in on Ed, your problem, and you're trying to get away from him, or whether it's running towards something that you really want, a vision of your life free. If you haven't picked a word for this year, and I really hope everybody has at this point, some of you probably just need to pick the word free. Like, I want to be free. Freedom is possible. Ed will say to you, freedom is not possible. This is who you are. But the lie there is that your sickness is your identity. And the reality is, it is not your identity. Your sickness is a thing. It's an affliction. But it's not who you are. Therefore, you can overcome it, you can treat it, and you can get better. So, fear is a liar. If you start to feel that fear rising up in you, examine what your thoughts are that are making you feel that way, and come here in the group. And again, I'm going to say it again, connection is what overcomes addiction. Connection is the opposite of addiction. And so come here in the group, be honest, talk about it. The other thing I want to point out is I want to talk just a minute about fasting. So if you are not sober, meaning if you are not in a place where you are able to sustain staying on plan, or if you are not free from binging, even if it's on keto foods, you should not be fasting at this time. It becomes a bulimic thing. And what I mean by that is we either fast and then we set ourselves up for a binge because we feel deprived, or we have binged and then we fast to try to compensate for that. And a bulimic activity or mindset is anything that we do to try to undo an eating event. And so I think it's really, really important to understand that even though you may like fasting, it might be a technique that you use, it could be extremely emotionally and mentally unhealthy. If you don't have 30 days of sobriety under your belt, I'm going to strongly suggest that you don't do any planned fasting, because it will set you up for a rebound binge. So that's what I've got for you today. Again, I'm a little bit sick, but I'm checking in here on the group. I'm still doing all my calls today. But if you need me, I'm right here. I want you to be open. I want you to be honest, but I also want you to understand the power that you have over Ed. Ed can plan a thought. If you capture that thought, you can shut it down every single time. And I'll review and reiterate that on Saturday, but I wanted to tell you that today. There's nothing to be afraid of. Nothing. So maybe that's the question to ask yourself. What am I afraid of? And if you ask yourself that question and you come up with a compelling truth, share it here in the group. Make a separate post and say, hey, I just realized the thing I'm afraid of is this. And then myself and others in the group can really help you overcome that fear by replacing it with an alternative thought. But it really does take your involvement, your participation. If you're in this group and you've not introduced yourself, if you've not shared yet, do it. There is nothing to be afraid of. We are open, we are honest, and there's no judgment. It's all about shining a light on it. So my goal is for all of you to be free from fear, free from obsession, and it absolutely is possible. There are not just me, there's other people in this group that are free from food obsession. And so I really, really strongly encourage you to just put it out there and let us help. Hope you all have a really good day, and I will talk to you soon.